I'm chatting here with James Burke of James Burke Associates, a regular at these shows.
Yes, very much so. Certainly over the last 5 years, here every year.
James, you've very much got your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the food and beverage sector. How is the patient at the moment?
I suppose there are changes. There are changes in the patterns, first of all. So it's constantly evolving. Packaging is probably one of the big, this year, challenges. And the challenge...
As in sustainable packaging?
Sustainable packaging. And I suppose the panic is that the packaging industry seems to be lagging a little with where either the consumer is at or where the producer is at or where the retailer is at.
It's interesting. I think the sustainability trend is the consumer is way ahead of the suppliers. There's often it's the other way around. The suppliers are pushing out trends.
Yeah. And I think we were having a conversation this morning on one of the stages, and I think that the consumer's ability and willingness now to change behaviour is so condensed into a short period of time. It could have taken you a decade to get a step change 20 years ago. You could probably achieve it in 2 years now. People are more receptive to changing for the right reasons.
Will they pay a 10% margin for to change behaviour, do you think?
I think if for the early movers who can demonstrate what somebody is looking for, typically, vegan food, as an example, is more expensive. There's a significant premium. It might be far more than 10%. I don't hear people complaining about it. Those early adopters that are moving in are happy with the offer.
Looking into the future, what are you most excited about in trends that you see coming down the line?
I think there's a radical transformation going on in the whole health area. Health has a massive influence on new products coming in. And it's a bit of a conflict because on one end you have health and then you have other products that are coming on which are on the indulgence side. So there's a valid market for both sides. I think how that's going to shape up is going to be the interesting piece. You know, I don't see everything migrating in one direction or the other. I think we'll still get the balance. There's definitely going to be more health influences. I think companies that are able to call out something that is related to somebody's lifestyle and what they want, I suppose, this common ethos are the ones that will win.
You've always had a strong connection with startups, food startups. Are we seeing as many as the last 5-6 years?
Absolutely not. The landscape has changed dramatically. The reason is evident, and we see this, where somebody will book for a food startup workshop. They'll book maybe 7-8 weeks ahead of time. When we're checking 7 days ahead, the answer quite often, 2 out of every 15 you'll get is, actually, I've just got a job, I won't be doing it. So there's a trade-off. If somebody says, Andrew, you can have a job for €50,000 per year and start tomorrow versus no salary for 2 years.
But maybe that's a way of weeding people out.
I think in the past, what we've had, and we're paying for it now slightly, is we had a rush to start food businesses. It's a very difficult space, very challenging space. And some of those fatalities are there. They'll bottom along for 2 years or thereabouts, maybe 3, and then they run out of money and they're gone again.
Is that the magic sort of 24 months? If you've made it 24 months, you're on.
If you can get through that period, but you now need to be at a position where it is beginning to profitable and you should be able to take a wage out of it, because if it's not, you've got to ask a serious question. A lady who closed a business and was willing to share, a food business, and was willing to share her learnings, gave me an analogy, a personal analogy of hers with her son, which is very true to business. Her son was joined an athletics club, was put in a team wrongly that was over, or his capacity was under, and she found him at the finish line of the race, panting for breath, thrown on the ground, and she said, but why didn't you stop? And he said, I didn't know I could stop. And she reflected that back in her own business, and not that she was to close the business down, but there were many things she was doing in that business that weren't working.
So park that
piece, but push that. And she said she didn't do it. Every year she said, it's next year, it's next year. And I think it's very good advice that within a business there will always be things that work and don't. Those who kill the things that are not working quickest are the ones that are most likely to survive. There's a couple of interesting businesses that are emerging that are coming from maybe a restaurant background or a food service background, where they've done the restaurant bit, have the capabilities, have the kitchens, and are now looking to supply into third parties. Bit of a challenging personally for the owner, because if you've got your own cafe or restaurant, you're top of the pile. If you're supplying into retail or supplying other food service, you're now bottom of the pile, and there's a bit of a mindset.
But this idea of going through different channels is definitely interesting. That you can't just rely on one channel anymore.
The other piece that I'm seeing really tangible evidence is we hear a lot about selling online. In my view, that is not setting up your own website and selling online, unless you're selling healthy meals for immediate consumption.
Yes.
But if you're selling something in a can, a jar, or a bottle,
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to the idea of do your own search engine optimization, set up your own website. Where I'm seeing the serious traction is with the people that are going on to the likes of Amazon. And we had a great case study recently, and this would be Amazon UK, obviously. We had a great case study recently with somebody who went on, and he was managing his own Amazon bits, and he was doing £400 sterling per month.
Yeah.
He got himself an Amazon seller, an agent, as such, an expert, and he was doing $4,000 a month. He jumped to on the next month. To which I replied, "Oh, wow, 50,000 a year. That's very interesting." And he said, "No, 200,000 a year," because it kept growing. So, and I hear Irish producers every day, and there are a number of Irish sellers doing a good job now moving on to Amazon.
So not just prove your concept with Amazon, but actually it's a serious, credible channel.
It is. And while everybody accepts that right now for any one producer, it still doesn't outweigh their supply into bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
I can show you producers that are doing up to $5,000 a week on that channel, those that are where their product. It's not price sensitive.
Yes.
And in some categories, it's not so crowded.
James, thanks for the chat. Nice to see you again.
As
and enjoy
always.
the rest of the show.
Always. Thank you.
Thanks.